plant has a defense mechanism that's actually utilizing some of the phytochemicals for their benefit. So our defense system can be benefited. Number one, it boosts our immune system. Number two, helps prevent heart disease, cancer, degenerative diseases, and aging. You know, pretty fun. Yes.
And your pets can go vegan too.
And your pets can go vegan too. I knew there was hope for our pets. But yeah, so it's just kind of that whole idea that when we start tapping into the plant's defense mechanisms and boosting our own, because when we ingest the plants, we're going to get benefit. And I'm going, well, I haven't met anybody yet that says, I want to look like I'm 77, I want to feel like I'm 77, right?
Yeah.
I had a gentleman this week that told me, I'm 38, I'm not 77. Going, awesome. Because that's literally how his mind is working. His mind is working like that of somebody in their 30s. I mean, he's out doing all kinds of things, and I'm looking at him going, you need to tone it down a little bit here. Right now he's got a health issue that's needing to be addressed, and being 38 is kind of getting in the way of this. But yeah, it's pretty wild.
When I do dinner, I try to pick 3 colors. And you have a beautiful plate, so I always make an effort to shop by colors or cook by colors.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think you've all heard this, right? We eat with our eyes first, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if any of you are into, the Food Network or Chopped. Margo and I kind of enjoy watching Chopped every once in a while. It's a program where these chefs kind of compete, and there's like what, an appetizer, main course, and then dessert or whatever. But I got to tell you, when you're sitting there looking at what these chefs have made, you're not able to smell it. You're just looking at it, and you go, whoa, I wouldn't eat that. Or some of them you go, wow, that's incredible. And it is. It's got so much to do with that color. You've got to have color. You've got to have just be able to mix it up and make it interesting. Well, the phytonutrients are actually going to do that. And then we add this whole cascade of positive things with hundreds, potentially thousands of phytochemicals now working for us to improve our overall health. So phytochemicals belong to a variety of different chemical families. And here we go, the fun names, the carotenoids. We start thinking about, carrots, the colors, right? Flavonoids, terpenes, and polyphenols. Well, polyphenols we've been talking a lot about because of how they're interacting with the microbiome of our GI tract. But I thought it was kind of interesting, as we look at the role, they work as enzymes, hormones, and at DNA level repairing or preventing genetic damage that could lead to cancer. So if we have a cell that's starting to mutate, these different phytochemicals kind of jump in there and they go, whoa, wait a minute, we're gonna slow that down, and we're not gonna let this cell differentiate and mutate. We're gonna just put the brakes on that whole process. And so you can just see enzymes. Well, that helps kind of break things down so our body can use it. Hormones, it actually sends a signal, that our body will respond to. So it's kind of like a messenger. And so you're again, the complexity is real easy to be just sitting there going, whoa, way too much. But when we just understand, it's as simple as adding color. It's as simple as adding a variety of fruits and vegetables to our daily routine. The benefits of onions and garlic, and we were talking about vasodilators earlier. I'm going to try to get a list for this class of foods that are going to be very, very specific vasodilators. Okay, so opposite effect of what we see with caffeine, right? Vasoconstriction, vasodilators. Garlic's going to be right at the top of the list. You know, we were talking about some tea. What was that plant again? That takes over the trees.
Right.
Kudzu?
No. Just
Yeah, see, I'm doing the same thing. Oh, this isn't good.
No,
I need some more garlic. But yeah, you know, so in the trees around here, you know, the little plants that kind of start growing up in the trees, and they can just mistletoe. Thank you. Mistletoe.
Now you can buy that as a supplement.
I'm not sure. They have.
I've heard it as a herb,
Really?
but I've never
Herb.
seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Beware of allergies.
You know, not only allergies, but they went out of their way when you know, and this was years ago, I was looking at this, but it stuck with me because I'm going, wow, here's this mistletoe hanging out, you know, that's more of a nuisance than anything else, and yet it is such an incredibly potent vasodilator that they said you would have to be very careful and definitely be in touch with your physician, because it would have such potentially hypotensive effects.
Who found that out?
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, good question.
Well, it's an old thing they used in Europe for years.
Yeah.
It goes back.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Is it kind of fungus?
You know, I don't know if it's kind of
It is
fungus.
a fungus.
You know, that's how I look at it. I'm looking at it as it's taking over in the trees, and yeah, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So
It's like kudzu.
there.
If you're in the south, it's kudzu.
Oh, really?
It grows everywhere.
It's everywhere. Oh, very good. All right, Deborah, welcome. I know there's a couple of folks looking forward to you showing up. So the benefits of onions, garlic, oranges, whole grains. Again, that's that external bran, you know, of that grain kernel, flax seeds, sesame seeds, kitchen herbs, and tomatoes. It kind of goes into that a little bit more in our text. But I'm gonna hit the summary here real quick. See, here's onions. The compounds found in onions are flavonoids with antibacterial, antiviral, and anti-allergic properties. So I'm like, wow. I don't know if you all like onions.
Yes.
Yes. But growing up as a kid, I would go out in the garden. I'd pull an onion out of the ground. I'd wipe the dirt off, or most of it, and I just would eat them like apples. And I'm
And
just
you
sitting
didn't have
here.
any friends.
And I was far enough away from any friends that didn't have to worry about that. But
Don't feed them to Johnson.
don't, yeah.
Don't feed them to Johnson.
Well, that would make sense, you know. So, but then garlic has a powerful antibiotic property. Oranges, you know, and again, kind of like we find in carrots, that coloration of the orange. Well, automatically you start thinking bright color. It's going to, on page 67, it's going to have that, you know, that trigger in your mind of, okay, here's a phytochemical that's going to go to work for me. Well, in orange there are 60 flavonoids and 40 limonoids.
Now they're showing a picture of the skin.
And they're showing a picture of the skin. And
Well, you can orange, you know,
Right.
You can use
Well,
it.
and I'm sure
Drain it, and put it in the
you can grate it, and they do that a lot on the food channel. If any of you ever seen them grab that, and you know, and just adds a dimension to the dish that they're making. Okay, so there are also 20 carotenoids to stimulate the immune system and protect against aging. Okay, isn't that amazing? So here we all run. We're this next week we're going to really be focused in on oranges, onions, and garlic. So next week, Erwin, we're gonna notice a distinct odor in this class. Whole grains associated with reduced cancer risk, partly thanks to their phytochemical content, 90% of which is in the bran and the germ. Again, underscoring the absolute benefit of that whole grain. Okay, and Dr. Mitchell actually points out, therefore, these components are missing in white flour. And then we hear a lot about red wine. Okay, well, the same components are there in the red grape skins and other red fruit and vegetables. Protective substance that has a special action. And against various cancers and against heart disease. Pretty incredible. Flaxseed, sesame seed prevent breast and prostate cancer. And then the kitchen herbs that I referred to there, they're talking about rosemary, sage, thyme, oregano, and other kitchen herbs owe their flavors to the terpenoids, which are strong antioxidants and also inhibit cholesterol production and have cancer-preventing properties. Tomatoes, lycopene has been particularly associated with lowering prostate risk. And interestingly, it's even more available from cooked tomatoes. This would be an example where we actually are enhancing the benefits from the tomato by having it cooked. So again, we can enjoy it raw, but we can also have it cooked. And kind of adopt the same thing when it comes to cabbage there. All right, and then summary. I like how this was put. To maximize your intake of phytochemicals from day to day, eat a wide variety of different colored plant foods. It really comes down to, I'm going to grab some different colors. I'm going to make it look good. And in as simple, whole, and natural a state as possible. Some like grains, always cooked. Some like vegetables, sometimes cooked, sometimes raw. And I think that's kind of that message of balance. And each one of us, if we are trudging, it becomes not something that induces our smiling muscles. We start trudging through our day. We start going, I'm not looking forward to doing this. I'm not looking forward to this or that. And I think one of the most important strategies for us to be successful in application is going to find ways of making it fun, making it interesting, and avoid trudging. Should have made a slide on trudging, huh? Absolutely. So, our study, the handout today, I had the first part that, kind of gave you the title, and those of you that have been coming regularly, you have that. And then, we went through the introduction, some of the age-related changes of intestinal microbiota. I feared that I had hit some of these because I know I had talked about the importance of short-chain fatty acids. Well, this also, when I start talking about short-chain fatty acids, each one of us, we start thinking about what? Oil. What else? What do you think of when I say short-chain fatty acids? Any thoughts? So, number one, plant-based. Okay, fiber. And short-chain fatty acids actually will have a positive effect on the pH in our GI tract. Okay, so just remember, short-chain fatty acids, positive impact on pH. Okay, so what doesn't live in an alkaline environment?
Cancer.
Cancer. See, we're just, you know, I really, and that was actually what one of our Nobel Prize winners from what, 1931. Okay, so that's nothing new. But again, we don't find that on the front page of the newspaper, do we? Yes.
It seems the pH of the stool is not the pH of the blood.
Correct.
Okay.
You want an acidic stool and an alkaline blood.
Okay.
And that's how you keep the colon cancer down.
There you go.
The butyrates are made by the bacteria.
Correct. So butyrates, we talked about, what, a couple of weeks ago? And that is definitely going to have a positive impact on decreasing colon cancer. Short chain fatty acids, okay? So, yeah, and I highlighted this, made it bold, that it is now clear microbes present in human gut are essential for the process of digestion. Well, it makes sense, right? They're working with us to kind of break things down. During anaerobic fermentation, their metabolism causes a breakdown of indigestible compounds, such as resistant starch, plant polysaccharides, which results in short-chain fatty acid production. So again, that relationship, you and I have to have those organisms in our GI tract to be able to break this down, break down some of these indigestible things. The other examples of microbe-specific metabolism are the synthesis of vitamins and amino acids. So this actually means that our bodies rely on the bacteria to produce different vitamins and amino acids. Pretty amazing stuff, huh?
With the supplements and Dr. Oz just had a 7-day Adventist guy on there talking about resting on the salad, but then they were talking about the other part was about the bacteria. They had the yogurt, and then they had this spew of fiber foods, and they go, well, if you do this and this, we did charts and studies, and your bacteria count went up, but they never did the study without the dairy and just the fiber foods.
Just
I go,
the
well,
fiber
that would have
foods.
been the study to do, but
Yeah.
so how, even if you eat the yogurt and all that, does it actually make it to the colon, but does it leave the stomach, those bacteria intact, or are they dead by then?
You're actually going to love the rest of the handout
Okay.
from today that I'm not going to be able to get to. Because basically when we start talking about nutraceuticals, and that's kind of where food actually is viewed as a medicine. Okay, so nutraceuticals versus pharmaceuticals. So nutraceuticals, I'm not going to send a script with you to go to the pharmacy and pick up. That's where we're going to actually get this at Rayleigh's, at grocery outlet, you know, where we go to get our foods, so nutraceuticals. And that's going to be, you know, really, again, part of this whole process of understanding and looking at the different studies. And so in the upcoming weeks, that's actually what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at some of the studies where we're going to say, okay, so this segment of the population did not have this in their diet. This segment of population had something completely different. And then we looked at the analysis that was actually done on the stool pHs, okay? And we look at the microbiome ratios that they found based on the stool studies. And you know, it's pretty fascinating stuff, and I hope I'm not boring you all with this, because it is, to me, it is just so exciting when you can take a look at one segment of the population that has removed gluten from their diet, and look at the studies that have been done on the ratios of organisms in their stools compared to the segment of the population that has included gluten in their diet. And I think that's where I just you know, feel like this really comes, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you and I are sitting here going, okay, so what I'm eating, you know, diets with inulins and fructans as prebiotics. We're going to touch on those a little bit more. Affects the gut microbiota, then the fermentation, the creation of short-chain fatty acids. The pH is then caused to drop. We have colonic and systemic health effects. Thus, the decrease of colon cancer, simply because now we're paying attention to what we're eating. And so the dietary and the butyrates that Dr. Meyer had alluded to, we've talked about. There again, you see it in that Wikipedia reference there as you know, a definite energy source for colonic cells. So our colon, we've got the energy, we've got the anti-carcinogen effects as well as anti-inflammatory properties. So what happens to our, you know, again, bringing this back around and making sense for the diabetics in the room. So what's happening with blood sugars when we are following this kind of thought process? In our shopping techniques, in our food preparation techniques, we've got 3 different colors at the meal. Are we going to expect blood sugars to moderate, be more leveled?
Yes.
Okay. So then, if we have neuropathies right now with foot pain, are we going to be able to see reversal of that?
Yes.
Okay.
It could be in the hands too.
It can be anywhere. Absolutely. Hands, feet. Most commonly, it's going to be in the lower extremities. That's where it's going to start.
So you can actually reverse neuropathy with?
When, you know, and that's there are cases that I've had of complete reversal.
Really?
And it's a combination of understanding. We've got to have the butyrates. We've got to have the phytochemicals. We've got to have a meal schedule, right? We've just got to bring everything that we learn in this class together and create a strong daily routine and program. And when we do that, we're going to improve perfusion to the lower extremities, meaning that my little toe is going to be getting enough oxygen, meaning that the other mechanisms, that cascade of negative events that takes place in the creation of neuropathies can actually be slowed and in some cases stopped completely. And that's, again, you know, when the viscosity of the blood is very high because of the amount of sugars that we're ingesting, when the blood vessels are very constricted by the caffeine that we're consuming.
So those 2 things separately would be bad enough, but you
Sure.
put them together.
So it becomes the perfect storm.
Yeah,
Becomes the perfect storm. And it is just so, and I know, Doc Meyer, you've probably seen several cases like this as well. You know, and it's so frustrating. You know, individuals become so completely hopeless and helpless and overwhelmed that they continue to fuel the problem, and oftentimes they don't even realize that they're fueling the problem. And then all of a sudden, when we start plugging in and incorporating, and yeah, we might get a little strong on the science sometimes, but it's really important to be able to break it down, keep it simple, and incorporate positive changes in our daily routine. Yes?
I think some of the frustration is because different medical people are telling you conflicting information. If you go to the person who's counseling you on diabetes, what they're taught in school is to eat foods that don't raise your blood sugar. So they're going to suggest eat eggs. That's a good source of protein. Everyone eats lots and lots of protein.
Right.
And then it's not going to raise your blood sugar. But what they're not telling you that tomorrow and the next day, you're going to be more insulin resistant because of those eggs. And so your blood sugar tomorrow and the next day will go up.
Right.
So they're focusing on just the hours after today's meal of aids and missing the big picture that it's not helping you with reversing your diabetes by reversing the bad parts of the aids.
Right. Right. So if our discussion today would have been about the benefits of a Snicker bar, the benefits of a Snicker bar would be very short acting. And then we would have to start listing all the negatives, right? The only benefit would be, hey, maybe we're going to get some energy and I'm not going to feel quite as hungry. And it's real easy to get caught up on, well, the sugar. Like the individual I shared with you earlier, that when I met him, he was doing 5 pounds of sugar a week. Well, that was kind of a no-brainer. You know, that's definitely going to negatively impact his blood sugars. But what there was a complete lack of understanding was that fatty foods are now going to have, you know, we're not going to see an immediate response, but we are going to see that come right back around and negatively impact his blood sugars. Yep.
And when you get different information, you can say from doctors or from just what you're reading, your mind's confused. And mentally, when you're confused, it lowers all parts of your body and everything else.
Absolutely.
And decisions and everything else.
So there we talk about cognitive function. You know, and it is so hard to process. I mean, when your physician has told you that as a diabetic you should eat every 2 to 3 hours. So how many of you have ever tried eating every 2 to 3 hours? You know, it's amazing. I have met so many people that are just so completely wiped out, fatigued. They're trudging because they're trying to keep their blood sugars up like a balloon, like you would a balloon. If we had a balloon and I threw it up there and said, okay, now we as a group, we're going to have to keep this off the ground for the next hour. I got to tell you, very soon it would not be fun anymore. And we'd be going, okay, Rob, can we stop this nonsense? And I think that's where we have to really understand that eating every 2 to 3 hours is not a necessity. When we have paid attention to what it is that we're actually putting into our bodies. We're putting fiber in that gives us that extended release benefit. The fiber is then broken down by the microbes, creating short-chain fatty acids. Now we have started to instigate a positive cascade of events in our lives that will not only have our cognition and cognitive function improved, but our smiling muscles are going to work a lot better too. I'm going to wrap it up. So very fun, and Doc Meyer, you're on next week, and then I'll be back, I believe, the following week, and we'll continue this as we'll move into nutraceuticals and prebiotics. Okay? Let's close with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we have spent together today. Help each one of us to be able to wrap our minds around the important role that we can play in improving our health, and not only controlling blood sugars, but improving cognitive function and overall physical health. We ask for your continued guidance in this upcoming week, and bring us all back again safely next week. In Jesus' name, amen.